Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Matt and Jeff. Today we have Joe De Sena from Spartan with us. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Mate, we're really looking forward to meeting you. It's amazing the kinship and the camaraderie that we've already felt since being here. The whole philosophy of Spartan, it seems, is about one of results, not excuses, which is amazing because ATP's tagline from when we first started was results, not excuses.
That's exactly right. And as far as being excited to meet me, people are usually excited and then they meet me and it's like a letdown. So I'm just a regular person. My wife is constantly trying to get me out of the house, so I'm not that cool.
Really?
But we'll have some fun.
That sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We've met a lot of your tribe, and I see that your vibe kind of makes your tribe. The feeling
the tribe is amazing. They're much better than me.
Yeah. But, I mean, you're the leader of the tribe, so I mean, your vibe has to have created this. And it's very impressive because what we've noticed is an interesting theme about the toughness, and toughness also involves a certain amount of kindness, resilience, love of the earth, love of your fellow man, and that sort of stuff. It's not just badass for the sake of being badass. It's a very uplifting and supportive.
It's so funny you say that because I come doing this, over 20, 25 years now, different sports and all endurance stuff. I was never very fast. And as Spartan developed, I started to say to myself, holy smokes, and I'm not just saying this because it's our brand, but if you saw Spartans in a bar or restaurant, and you saw in that same bar a bunch of triathletes, you'd notice the Spartans right away for all the reasons you just said, those attributes. They're badass, but somehow the edges are blunted.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They're good. They'll lend you hey, they could be out there competing and they'll help each other somehow.
Yeah.
Right? They'll lose a minute at a time, 2 minutes, 5 minutes to help somebody.
Yeah.
So Joe, the Spartan event in Australia is absolutely going from strength to strength. But there may be some of our listeners who aren't familiar with Spartan. Do you want to give a little bit of a rundown of Spartan and why you created it?
Yeah, so I was doing, I started with adventure racing, and then I was in a bad car accident. I had just gotten married, and my friend was doing me a favor and driving me to a hospital where my dad was, who had a heart attack. And on the way, my friend fell asleep.
Oh, no.
It was my fault because I pushed him to drive. We were driving late at night, and he hit a tree at 85 miles an hour. I went out the window. My leg was ripped out of my hip.
Wow.
And so being the crazy person that I am, once I heard from the doctors that, you're not going to run, you're not going to be able to walk, I was on a mission within 48 hours of being in the hospital. And my wife said, well, you're not doing any more adventure races because if you're out in the wilderness and you're out there for 12 days and your femur comes out of your hip again, you could be stuck and you could die. And so I said, I'll do Ironmans then, because there's always medical units around if something happens. And so I signed up for 14 Ironman right there from the hospital. And
with a busted hip.
With a busted hip.
Yeah.
And so I went into this recovery and I learned a lot about Ironman. And it was obviously a very tough sport, very rugged individuals. But what I found was that they were very focused on clinical things, could I save 5 ounces on my bike seat? If it's raining, I'm not going to train today. I'll train indoors. And that was the antithesis of what I had come from, where we were out in the wilderness for 10, 12, 15 days, waist deep snow in some cases, laying in the mud and nothing that, the military was a whole other level, but it felt like the military. And I thought, gee, if you're an Ironman, male or female, you're supposed to be an Ironman, male or female. The bike chain breaks, you run the last 100 miles. You do whatever you have to do. And so Spartan was really born out of that frustration. And I said, I want to create a whole new sport where everything's athletic in nature, everything I just described. It's got a little bit of the triathlon ethos. It's got a little bit of adventure racing, but it's really military in nature. Hopefully it'd be recognized and legitimate. And look, I didn't know if 5,000 people I didn't know what would happen.
Yeah.
But I certainly didn't expect this.
Yeah.
And so it just took over the world.
Because you started with the ideal that you wanted to see something improve. You wanted to see something that...
I wanted to do it too. And I wanted to just help people. I mean, my mother in the 70s was into getting people healthy and making them vegan and getting them to fast. And before it was cool, there was no Whole Foods at that time. And so I was into that, although that wasn't front and center at the time. I think it was subconscious, I want to get people healthy. But then everybody's coming across the finish line. Oh my God, you changed my life. I'm back with my husband. I lost a bunch of weight. I'm no longer doing drugs. I'm not. I mean, the stories are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so it was like, holy shit, we transform people.
It's funny because sometimes that sort of sneaks up on you. You might not have had an idea of exactly what it even looks like now, but you started because you wanted to help people. And it's the same thing with our podcast as well too. And the reason why I'm smiling is because when we first started the podcast back in 2014, we literally thought we might get a handful of personal trainers and a few store owners to actually listen to us talking about health. Not just supplements, but health. And as a result, it's just exploded. But that's because people are hungry for authenticity and the truth, and they want something that's actually going to impact their lives. So obviously you've done that.
We definitely struck a chord or a nerve.
So the obstacle aspect of it, I mean, the Spartan Race itself seems almost like a metaphor for life for some of these people. I mean, in life you hit a hurdle or an obstacle, I mean, and that's an opportunity for you to either think, oh, I'm on the wrong path, I give up, I'll go somewhere else, or, test your conviction, here's a test, push through this and show to us that you're on the right mission, that you're on the right path. And that must be one of those things that people are feeling when they get to that finish line, that they made a commitment, they hit obstacles and hurdles and they pushed through because they knew it was the right path for them. And that must then confirm the same thing in their life. Is that the sort of stories you hear?
I mean, the obstacles are metaphors for life, no doubt about it. There's nobody, not a billionaire, not a rich kid, nobody gets a free pass in life. Like, we're all going to get hit with shit. There's going to be bumps and bruises and curves and rain. And so we say, like, why wouldn't you practice for that? Like, you practice piano, right? You practice a language, you practice math, you practice yoga. Let's practice hard.
Yeah.
And so we throw a bunch of obstacles in front of people. None of them are meant to hurt people. They're all athletic in nature. Some are skill-based. They're hard. And here you are. You're already exhausted. You've been training for 4 months. You gave up the cookies. You're not drinking as much, right? And then, fuck, there's a rope climb. Just when you thought it was over. It happened to me. Last week, I did Killington, which is arguably one of our toughest races on the globe, and Killington, Vermont. I'm with my kids. We go out at 6:30 in the morning. And it's a long day, and it's cold, and it's windy, and it's brutal. And I get to the Tyrolean Traverse, which is one of our obstacles. I'm thinking we're on the tail end of this thing. The finish line's coming. It's been a long day. And there's a Tyrolean Traverse. And I invented this shit, okay? And I'm like, fuck. I don't want to do any more burpees. I've done 120 burpees already today.
Yeah.
I don't want to do burpees. And
burpees comes when you fail an obstacle.
If you fail an obstacle, you got to do 30 burpees. And the reason for that was, how do we get people to train for these obstacles? I don't want just people walking around them. Like, you got to be accountable in life, right? I mean, you can't just decide to cut the last 2 miles off a marathon or decide not to swim in the Ironman. So what am I going to do to punish people that, one, is healthy, and two, is so bad that you'd rather do the obstacle?
Yeah. Everyone hates burpees. How many times I said that this
And
week?
30 is the number.
Right.
Like 20, you'd like, I could do 20, no big deal. I don't have to train for it. 30 is a number where you're like, and so it happened to me. And I put my legs up on the Tyrolean Traverse, which, if you could envision like 007, you get your legs on and you're pulling yourself on this rope, right, with your back parallel with the ground. And I just made a decision that I was going to rip all the skin off my calf, just so I didn't have to do burpees.
Wow.
And so I'll show you my scar. And my wife's like, what happened to your leg? I don't want to do burpees.
So, Joey, obviously you're pretty mentally tough. And obviously you're trying to challenge and encourage that in people to overcome the obstacles in life. But you've already spoken a bit about the accident that you had. And what are some of the low moments for you? What are some of the things that have been those poignant moments of difficulties in your life that have actually defined who you are now, and what you're trying to help other people who have been through that to overcome?
Yeah, I think, I've been running businesses, small businesses, since I'm preteens. Yeah. And obstacle races are tough, and adventure races are tough, and military stuff, right? People are shooting at you, but business is tough. I mean, running a business and not being able to make payroll and trying to figure out how to get customers to buy your product, and then your best employees leave and a competitor shows up across the street and your factory burns down. I mean, that is tough.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah.
And so when you ask what are those moments that define me, I mean, the car accident was tough. Getting your leg ripped out of your hip, tough one.
How old were you?
I was 12 years ago.
Wow.
So 38, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's only relatively recently, yeah.
12 years. And so that's tough. That's painful. But but it gets fixed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And the pain goes away.
Yeah.
The business, the pain never goes away. It's
No.
just constant, dull, aggravating pain. And just when you think you solved it, another one, another thing shows up.
So talking to Ian as well too, and it's one of those things I think, when you start a business, it's always not clear in your mind of exactly, okay, this is exactly what I want it to look like, because sometimes it changes. Your vision grows as you grow as well too, as a person, an individual. And I was talking to Ian actually when I met up with him first.
He's my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was telling me some great stories of how, the original vision and mission was to get 10 million people off the couch. Is that correct?
Oh, the original one was 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, I don't know if you remember years ago at McDonald's, if you went near a McDonald's, it would say 1 million hamburgers served.
Right.
Now it's been well over 1 billion, and they don't even put the number up anymore.
Right.
But it was very much like that. Like, it was a small number, and it was a bigger number, and I threw out a crazy number, 100 million, but
Yeah.
we'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how is that continuously improving? Is it just you're seeing the impact that you're having on people's lives? And
The people do the work. They sell. They get new friends. If you talk to people out there and you say, "Hey, how'd you end up here? What'd you do? What ad did you see?" I don't know how I got here. My brother-in-law grabbed me and said, "We're doing this," and so they do the work.
Yeah.
And they just keep bringing people in.
Yeah.
And they don't stop.
No.
And they don't stop.
No,
Yeah.
you guys.
No.
It's like I was saying. The Spartan ethos runs the whole way through, from the officials doing the organising and doing whatever it takes to get the job done.
We got a guy here. I think it's his 301st race today. You guys should interview him, Joe Forney. 301 races. Another guy here, 216 races.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
So whereabouts is Spartan in the world? I know that we're in Australia. I know that you're
45
in the US.
countries.
Wow.
Yeah, 45 countries. So it'd be tough to name them all, but every continent, right, except for Antarctica.
Yeah.
But we're covering everywhere.
Yeah.
And where are you up in the tally towards that 100 million? Do you have an idea?
Oh, I
of where we're at?
got 94 million to go, I think, or 93 million to go.
Yeah,
well on our way.
Well on our way.
Well, they say the critical mass occurs once you got 3%. So that's the thing. From there, as you say, word of mouth, 400% more effective than any other form of advertising you can get. If you've got engaged people with a core community, and you've got that.
Yeah.
So that 100 million is only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been dying to ask about the kettlebell. I've seen you with the kettlebell.
Yeah.
What is the story with the kettlebell?
So a lot of people think that I'm like a kettlebell workout guy, and I'm doing kettlebell swings and all that. Actually, I'm not. I'm not proficient at all in any kettlebell workouts. But I don't know how many years ago, 5-6 years ago, somebody had done one of our races. He was 696 pounds. He had eaten 8 Egg McMuffins and 2 2-liter Sprites every day for a long time.
Yeah.
Got himself up to 696 pounds. Somehow ends up at a Spartan race. Doesn't even know how he ended up there. Takes him 8-9 hours to get through the sprint, which everybody else did in an hour and a half. And I heard about him. Couldn't do the obstacles, obviously. I heard about him. Asked him to come to our farm in Vermont. He came to the farm. I took his wallet, took his keys, and he was on lockdown. We helped him get, I think he got to 262 pounds.
Wow.
And part of the motivation was for him, as you lose weight, I'll carry more weight.
Okay.
And so I had gotten to 100 pounds, which was pretty significant for me. And we were then moving as a family to Asia, and I got this 100-pound sandbag full of metal BBs that I'm carrying around. They wouldn't let it on in the airport through. And so when we landed in Asia, I asked my wife, I said, can you go on Amazon and order a 20-pound kettlebell? I'm done with the 100. I've done my job. I'll just carry it. I'll just carry around a 20-pounder because I kind of got used to over the last 12 months carrying this sandbag around. Because we're in Asia, 20 kg showed up. And being that I'm the Spartan guy, I couldn't return it. So I've been carrying this thing for 4 years. And weekends like that, it's a little insane. Like this is a little insane because I'm on my feet all day meeting people, so I'm carrying it all day. But normally I just have to get it to the office, put it down, do my work in the office, and then get it back home. But the last 2 days have been hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, I was in New York the other day, and Trump was in New York, so there was a lot of walking. I covered at least 14 miles with this thing, and it was a tough day.
It was because Trump was closing down the traffic.
Yeah, traffic was jammed
Right.
everywhere. I was walking everywhere. It was a nightmare.
Right. Good old Trump.
Yeah.
So in terms of, you mentioned some athletes there that are remarkable to you. We interviewed Rob Killington, phenomenal guy. He's obviously looking forward to bringing his best out on Sunday. What are some of the athletes and maybe even not some of the top end athletes, but what are some of the other athletes that have been inspirational to you?
I mean, you go back to the original gangsters of the sport were really Hobie Call and Amelia Boone. That was like Ken and Barbie, right? They're extremely fit, really good looking, winning nonstop, and so they are those original gangsters. And then from there, it was nice to see like any sport, the new athletes come in and start to knock them out. And a woman from Eastern Europe, from Slovakia, Susanna, she comes out of nowhere and starts winning. It turns out she was a Nordic skier.
Right.
And when you talk to these folks, whether Robert Killian or Amelia or Hope, like they typically have really big engines from some other sport, but they also have a really gritty mindset. They're not clinical, right? They don't care about getting dirty or getting scratched with barbed wire, which is rare because I've had NFL players out here, I've had Tour de France riders out here, you name it, from any sport, and they cry. And I'm like, I don't understand how you're like Lance Armstrong. And they say, you don't understand. Like I don't normally train. I don't get dirty like this. I don't bleed. I don't get cold. Right? They're coddled. They're wrapped in bubble wrap in some ways. These athletes.
Right.
So, but you get a rugby player out here. You get a wrestler out here. They get it.
Yeah.
They love it.
They love it. Military gets it.
Yeah.
There's another rumor I heard about you this weekend, that you somehow can control the weather. Just to add that extra hardship.
This is my weather box right here. This is it right here. And I just push a few of these buttons, and it cost me a few extra bucks. But it is absolutely bizarre that in most of the events we hold anywhere in the world, the weather will be perfect right up until race day and then right after.
Yeah.
And then on race day, it's as if God is working with me.
With you.
We are just torturing people.
That's great.
I'm with this new box I got today. I think there's a button here that says I could send locusts. And
I don't know how you do it, because that's what everyone's saying. You manage to do it just pretty much every event. At least the wind, if nothing else.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So how do you, Joe, running a successful business, you're going to be away from home a lot. How does that impact in terms of home work-life balance? And can you explain a little bit about your family as well too?
My wife just walked in. She's got my salad, and she is she's so easygoing. She just lets me do whatever I want to do. The only time I saw her ever flip out, I think we hit 1 million subscribers on or 1 million followers on Facebook, and I invited everybody to our house. And I came home, and she's like, "What the fuck? You invited 1 million people to our house? Nobody's gonna come. They know I'm gonna make them do burpees."
Did anyone come?
I mean, we've had 700-800, but not 1 million.
That's typical for a Facebook group of how many show up, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Good conversion.
Yeah. So how do you do that? I mean, and do you have children as well?
We have 4 children. I've been checking on the boys who are wrestling today. I keep checking in how they're doing, and so I'd be lying to you if I said I wouldn't rather be with them right now.
Sure.
But then I got all these folks that come up to me and want to take pictures because they changed their life in some way. So it's I don't know. I don't have it. Listen, you can't have it all.
You can't.
No.
Exactly right.
So you can't have it all.
And the thing is that I guess there is always certain sacrifices that you make, but overall you've got to look in your life and you go, I'm making a difference, and I'm still carving out time for my family.
Yeah.
We've both got young boys. Matt's got a
4 and 5. Actually, I got to fly home on the weekend for one of my son's birthdays and come straight back to the States.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like birthday parties. It's worth the trip.
Yeah.
Nice.
It always makes it difficult, but it's getting that balance as well too. And again, the same things with business as well. Like, obviously with the Spartan Race, you're encouraging people to be selfless as well too, by helping and cheering and supporting other people's as well too. So, do you find that cuts through into the support for the family as well too? And I know that you've got events for the family.
We do. I mean, I was out with one of the kids last week doing a race. My daughter did a beast when she was 6. We go out and we live this stuff. We train every day, so it is kind of. Some people say, like I said earlier, work-life balance, and you separate it and turn your phone off when you get home. I would say we're more of a tornado.
Right.
It just all blends together. There's customers at the house. There's filming going on. There's workouts in the morning. It's just insanity.
Yeah.
But when someone's got your time, when your children have the time, you're zoned in. You said no phones. It's quality time.
I would be lying to
Yeah.
you if I said that I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
I have the addiction like everybody else has, and I one of the things I'm known for is being very responsive.
Yeah.
So and it drives me crazy when other people aren't responsive to me.
Yeah.
So I try to always be Look, I remember my dad. My dad was a workaholic maniac. Not that I didn't want to follow in those footsteps, as a matter of fact, and I find myself doing exactly what he did, which, I don't remember a moment when we were together where he wasn't like juggling phone calls or jumping in the car. Now he took me with him, and I got to see all. I think that's probably why I have a knack and I'm very comfortable around business. But it was all melded together in his house too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Joe, on a personal note, I noticed that you had an organic farm, correct?
Yeah.
So what part does nutrition play, and is that still something that you pursue? I mean, it's obviously difficult when you're on the road as well too to get quality nutrition.
Yeah. So we grew up in a traditional Italian household. If you saw the movie Goodfellas, I grew up in Ground Zero for that.
Right.
Literally across the street from the family that the movie is about.
Wow.
And so everybody in that neighborhood was either hustling and doing business. They owned pizza places, concrete companies, masonry yards, or they were doing bad things. And the food was not a priority. I mean, it was cannolis and raviolis and sausage and pepper heroes. But my mom, somehow in 1972, 73, finds a health food store, probably the only one in New York at the time. They were burning incense. There happened to be an Indian guru in there that just landed at JFK Airport. And she makes a left turn right on the spot. Yep. Throws away the raviolis and picks up a branch sandwich, and that was it. We were, and then they got divorced, and she moved us to Ithaca, and then there were monks in our living room, and nutrition became the sole focus, and exercise and chanting and meditation, all this weird. Again, it was weird at the time. It was not mainstream. Breathing, all this biohacking bullshit that everybody's talking about now, that was like 72 in my living room.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's old stuff. It's not. And by the way, 1,000 years before that, they were doing it.
Yeah.
So there was a moment in my life where I wanted to get back to the raviolis and didn't buy into any of that. But then I wasn't feeling healthy, and that was my stint on Wall Street. And so then I started finding healthy foods again. There was a period where I was just raw fruits and vegetables, felt really good on raw fruits and veggies. But I have weaknesses like everybody else. I had a half a hamburger yesterday. I slipped in with my salad. And so I would say I'm 80% plant-based, and less is more. But I have a voracious appetite, and I do the best I can.
And I hear from Ian, he said that you've had some troubles with regards to your stomach.
Yeah, my stomach was bothering me. I thought it was the kettlebell, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because I'd carried around this kettlebell for years, and you hold it on one side after a big meal. But I ruled out the kettlebell, and then I think we figured out that I was eating about 40 pounds of rice a week when we were living in Asia because I just love rice. Yeah. So about 7 months ago, the rice and the potatoes went away with all the starches. So I'm down to just eating celery at this point. I got nothing left. I got a kettlebell. I got nothing left to eat. But I'm down to salad. If you looked at my food pyramid, it would be the bottom of the pyramid would be 80% veggies. Right. The middle would be nuts and plant-based oils, and then the top would be some eggs, very little meat, and fish.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you should spend some time with Matt and maybe Elisma. But
I can talk to you about the gut stuff.
Yeah, and we can do this off air because when I first heard of that from Ian, I was like, man, we're going to help you.
That'd be great.
I mean, and again, one of the things that we're passionate about is bringing solutions to people that have sort of tried every path and not getting it, right? That's sort
you got to get a nurse and a doctor to stitch up my lips so that I can't eat, and then I'll be fine.
And
I just like to eat.
Yeah. And you know what? That's one of life's great pleasures. And I'd rather go, it's the same thing you said. When you got your leg ripped out of its socket, like for me as well too, I've just had knee surgery. Yeah. I discovered playing soccer when I was 40. absolutely love it, crazy about it, right?
Yeah,
And I can't
yeah.
wait to get back on the field. But
Yeah.
I'm going to have to overcome that so I can get the joy back in my life. If food is such a joy, like, you know what I mean? If it shouldn't rule your life, but it should be one of those things, especially with company and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I think, no way, I reckon we can absolutely help you to get rid of whatever it is and get you back to having that joy, right?
There's something really interesting about it, because you mentioned it earlier that, with the organic gardening and all that sort of stuff and the lessons from your mum. And one thing a lot of us do now is we have a balanced diet but not a varied diet. And we get in the habit of eating the same food all the time, and that can change our microbiome and change everything. So that's the fun stuff to look into.
I'm obsessed with, I get on cashews or almonds or whatever, and rice in the example when I was in Asia, and I just eat it to death.
Yep.
You know what I'd love to do, man, is I'd love to get an organic acid test. So we'll
do it all. We'll work out full stuff.
Cool. I could leave a finger behind if you want to test it.
Yeah, we can do that.
You got
chop it off. Yeah.
Probably rather that than a stool analysis.
I don't know how we'd slip that through customs. So what's that? Don't worry.
That's funny. So what's next? What's next for the Spartan stuff? I noticed we got a lot of influence from the CrossFit guys here. After talking to Killington yesterday, and he was talking about how that the trailblazing versus the running crazy through the woods, and so what's next? Are we going to go? Are you thinking more towards more obstacles, or more strength, or more?
We're thinking
endurance.
So I think we're going to definitely go big on trail.
Yep.
Right. So we'll be the largest trail series in the world in short order. There's a lot, there's 50,000 events around the globe, whether it's a turkey trot or a bike race or whatever. And, we got our eyes set on, 20 to 50 of those that are interesting, that we think could be real brands and help people get off the couch and get excited about something. Yeah. So we're looking at making a bunch of acquisitions, knock on wood.
Yeah, cool.
And just keep people in the ecosystem doing sport.
To get that 100 million, you'd need a bit of variety, I suppose.
We need a bit of variety.
Something for everyone.
And then people ask us, how do I train? How do I eat? How do I think? What do I wear? Four questions we got to answer. We're getting bigger and bigger merchandise, so that's exciting.
I love your merchandise.
Thank you.
We're down there, and I'm like, seriously, I'm like looking at this going, we need to know who you guys get stuff from.
Isn't that fun?
It's great. And
it only costs $22 million, so it'll be easy for you. Literally.
Maybe
you have no idea.
No, I could imagine.
Yeah.
And in terms of it, it's just great stuff. And I love the logo as well.
The problem with merchandise is when you have a varied assortment like we have out there, right? You need massive inventory.
Yeah.
Like massive inventory.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then think about it. Then stuff goes stale because people want a fresh look or whatever. So it's not as easy as a business. Like for you to make a T-shirt with a saying on it, that's one thing.
Yeah.
To have 100 SKUs, oh my God. Now it's not as bad as food. Because food, really goes stale.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, we got a 2-year expiry. I think the fashions might change within those 2 years.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
right.
interesting.
That's right.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So in terms of, we're talking to Rob as well too about, and Nicole as well too, about being a professional athlete within Spartan. And that's something that's really cool. I know that's going to inspire a lot of people to actually go, oh my gosh, I can actually do this and make a living out of it.
Well, I don't know how much of a living they make these days. I mean, these athletes, again, this is a fairly new sport. The best athletes, the best, are maybe earning $100,000 a year, which is a real number.
Sure.
Right? But the majority of them are between 20 and 40.
Yeah.
Right? And so I threw out $1 million purse. And I said, if you could win all 3 of our championships, which are different distances, different locations, at the end of the year, there's $1 million on the line for you. Now, there's some caveats in there. It's not easy. Last year, a guy came arguably close. But I thought if we threw that kind of money on the table, that maybe some athletes would start to look at this and say, I got to make this
I agree.
my career.
I agree. In fact, I think in poker, they called that the Moneymaker effect. You remember when Chris Moneymaker, who was an accountant, came in, and all of a sudden people went, hang on,
I can make money at this.
We can do this.
Right.
And I guess the thing is as well too is that as you grow and as you get closer to that 100 million, people, there's going to be a lot of sponsors interested. There's going to be a lot of, and not just directly for the event, but also potentially for the high achievers or the people that are on social media.
In the early days, I mean, this is 20 years in the making, by the way. It's a 20-year overnight success, which I'm sure you guys could appreciate.
Yeah, that's right.
But in the early days, I would say the first 17 of those 20 years couldn't even get a seat at the table with the big companies like barbed wire. This is ridiculous. This is silly talk. We're not going to align our brand with that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what people now are recognized at companies, because we're getting seats at lots of tables, is it's not really about the barbed wire. It's the stories are so rich.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies have to make up stories to try to build some sexiness around their brand. We're like a story factory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're doing the podcast here, you see it.
Oh yeah,
The stories
absolutely.
are unbelievable.
I mean, like the hurricane story.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That was great. I mean, in terms of you went out there and the athletes were getting upset that you were going to cancel the race.
Oh, they were going to kill me.
Yeah. And so you actually, again, and I love it because it just
Like
goes
the torches, you know.
But I love it because again, it goes to show, and it's typical for Spartan in terms of everything that you preach, that if life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you actually turn that now into an event that's, is it one a month? Is that right?
At least one a month around
Wow.
the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure my team thinks I'm nuts because I'm always, like this weekend, the CrossFit Spartan Battle.
Yeah.
Right? Like that came out of nowhere, drove everybody crazy because here I am sticking this on their plate. Well, this is a big enough event to deal with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like to have fun.
And how do those decisions get made? I mean, while we're
you?
talking to me
It's
in the
a really
entrepreneurial,
methodical system. We've got algorithms and scientists.
Well, you get an idea?
I get an idea.
Yeah.
You know how it
Yeah.
goes, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
is it you, Joe? Do you have advisors? I mean, how does it work?
I'm looking around the room. I typically say, look, what I'm learning, because I'm learning how to run an organization like this, I'm not experienced at this, is you get an idea like that, you get excited about it, and you try to push it down. It doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
You need buy-in from the team. And so, I'm learning that, hang on a second, the team is actually really good at what they do. They put on 275. I do nothing, right? They put on events on the side of the mountain when it's raining, it snows. So I got to trust them. And so I got to figure out a way to better include them when you're making that decision so that they're part of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to stuff it down their throat.
So do you have advisors outside of Spartan? Do you have
We do have
mentors?
advisors. They usually disagree with everything I say.
Right, of course.
So everything I
Yeah.
come up with is pushback. But I think that's because this is such a new sport. It's hard for anybody that hasn't done it or done like any kind of really rugged sport to understand what the hell it is. The whole world is now involved in social media. It didn't exist before. Like unless you're in this, you don't really understand it. So when I'm talking, I probably sound like a crazy person. Doesn't make sense. You want to go in the Olympics? Why are we wasting time in the Olympics, right? And so why are we going overseas? Why don't we solve the U.S. first? And so I had my reasons. Like if we don't go overseas right away and we don't plant flags, people will do competing events, and then they will explain to their wives and children and friends, I just did the hardest race in the world called XYZ.
Yeah.
When we show up to that country and we present ourselves, people have cognitive dissonance. They can't, what are they going to do? Go to their friends and family that they just spent the whole last year and a half saying they did this really tough and say, oh, I was wrong.
There's a tougher one.
There's a tougher one. There's a better one. Like, no. And so
Yeah.
you got to get there first.
Yeah.
So I don't blame the advisors for fighting me on everything, but I it's good to get pushback because it makes you look in the mirror and say, is this really a good decision? Let me do a gut check. But by and large, they fight me on everything.
And I know.
Why are we writing a book?
No, I just made another connection. Your Spartan thing's part of the climate change. You're controlling the weather. You got events all over the world. This explains the hurricanes, the cyclones, the weird
We are
weather.
absolutely. You Al Gore has been calling me nonstop, telling me we are the cause. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that
It must
after he
be.
wrote the convenient line? I mean,
Convenient Truth,
Yeah, that's right. The interesting thing, I guess, in terms of your podcast as well too, Joe. You're talking with a lot of influential people. I had a look quickly, and Richard Branson, and I mean, what's been some of the highlights in terms of the people that you've interviewed?
Podcast for me, I mean, I always try to get down to just a couple of learnings, and so you learn from people's experiences. So whether it's a Branson, a Gary Vee, I forget the gentleman's name that built and sold a small beverage company called Bai, B-A-I. I think he got $1.2 billion for it. It was a 5-year build and sell.
Wow.
And you get a little nugget from this guy, from this woman, I had a great woman in Silicon Valley. She said everybody needs a personal board of advisors.
Yeah.
To your question about like, do you have advisors outside? And she's right, because you do need to look in the mirror. You do need to check yourself. So for me, the highlight of doing the podcast has just been learning.
Yeah.
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 And it's excellent because everybody gets to come along for the ride. I mean, obviously, people that respect and appreciate what you're doing. And if you're sitting there learning and listening from these guys as well, too, they're going to get it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And connecting like-minded people. I see that network that forms. Everyone just starts becoming new friends with each other and sharing information to change the world.
Yeah, we bring a lot of people together.
Well, I was just about to say, exactly for us. We're here at the Podfest and we're meeting other podcasters as well too. It's been absolutely awesome.
It's amazing, right?
The connectivity and
it's unbelievable. I know.
And look, some of them as well too. We're a little bit skeptical. Are we really going to be in the same sort of fit? And we've got the same sort of spirit, and them as well too. The first one that we did with the
Mark Devine.
Yeah, the seal.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And he was looking at us going, supplements, because we appreciate that. There's a lot of, and you'd have the same thing. There's a lot of charlatans out there in that space, right? And as soon as you start talking from the heart and there's that authenticity, it's like straight away barriers came down and we're like, we're in this. We're here to help people.
That's awesome.
Right. We're here to empower people and give people the tools and the resources that they need.
And that common theme, all of the podcasts, all the interviews we've been doing, we're seeing the same common theme about the connection to the earth, the need for spirituality, that whole holistic approach to life, and it's really important in places like Australia where we've got a lot of young, aggressive blokes that there aren't not real men, keyboard warriors and that sort of stuff. And to see
keyboard warrior, I just picked that up. That's one I'm taking that away from this. I like that.
And that's where they live, and they don't ever really see any of these challenges or tests. And you see the baddest, toughest people are also like the kindest, most spiritual. They have that connection to the earth. They don't think that looking after the earth is hippie or anything, and hippie is actually tough. It's an amazing theme that we're seeing through the Spartan.
You got to write down: hippie is tough, and keyboard warriors. I like that.
You can have them t-shirts for next year.
Yeah, I like that.
But look, Joe, we're running out of time. But I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us.
I appreciate you guys being here. Without you, we wouldn't have had this whole thing happen. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for your time.